Hello students, it's Mrs. Williams. What's up? Alright, so this is lesson 2 for the week of May 4th. This is also using the quadratic formula, but this is going to give you solutions that are irrational. Okay, so they're going to have a radical symbol in them, a square root symbol in them, with a number that cannot be simplified. So let's go ahead and get her started. Let's say that the first quadratic that we have today is 2r, how did Pirate say it? R! 2r squared plus 7r subtract 1 is equal to negative 3r squared. R! Okay, so remember with quadratics, you have to have it set equal to 0 before you can do anything with it. Okay, and right now it is not set equal to 0, so I'm going to add 3r squared to both sides. When I do that, I'll get 5r squared plus 7r subtract 1 is equal to 0. So this is the quadratic that I want to use. My pen is on time delay here. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so you guys know that I expect you to write out your A, your B, and your C. Okay, so let's start just like we did in lesson 1. So A is equal to 5, B is equal to 7, and C is equal to negative 1. That's important there, negative 1. Let's write, you can also use the template that I put in your files, but let's write out the quadratic if you don't have that template. So we have x is equal to negative parentheses b. Always take the time to put those parentheses there, even if it's a positive b right now. Sometimes the b's will be negative, so get in the habit of that. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. That's a c. All over 2 times a. Okay. All right, so my first simplification I'm going to put in red. So what that, actually I'm not even simplifying. All I'm doing now is the substitution portion of it. Okay, so x is going to be equal to negative parentheses 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 1, that plays a huge role here, over 2 times 5. All I have done is substituted. I haven't done any of the math or simplification process. All I've done is substituted. That's what I recommend that you do in Algebra 1, period, I think. And, you know, in Algebra 2, you'll get a little bit more handy with this, but okay, sorry about this. Okay, so now let's use blue for the next step, which is going to be a little bit of a simplification. Okay, so here's blue. So now I know x is equal to negative 7 plus or minus. I know that 7 squared is 49. Okay, and then I can do, I could do negative 5 times, or I'm just kidding, negative 4 times 5, which is negative 20, and then negative 20 times negative 1, that's positive 20. So I put a plus 20 here, and that is all over 10. Okay, so again, I have two negative symbols. If I have 2, then it's going to be a plus over here. Okay, it's really important. All right, let's go to green for my next step. So that's saying that x is equal to negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 69 all over 10. All right, and so then, you know, we talked about briefly in the solving using the square root method, if we could simplify radicals. Okay, and so when you get a square root in your answer, which we have now, we have 69, we need to think of factors of 69 that might possibly be perfect squares. Okay, so this would be divisible by 3 because the sum of 6 and 9 is divisible by 3. So let's see, that would be the same thing as the square root of 3 times 23, right? Okay, and then can we break down the square root of 23 into anything? No, it's prime, okay? So the square root of 69 cannot be simplified. So this is how we leave our answer. X is equal to -7. Make sure you have this. Plus or minus the square root of 69 over 10. And you leave it like that. And you know, this would be what's called an exact answer, because the square root of 69 is exact, okay? It doesn't have, you know, an estimation of any sort. However, sometimes Delta Math or Math Excel or other programs or test makers, whatever, will ask you for a decimal answer, okay? Now, if that's the case, let's actually just go over to Desmos real quick. And Desmos will do the work for you, okay? So you would put -7 plus, then you would use your square root symbol, 69, parentheses, okay, right arrow, divide by, oh, just kidding, go outside, see how I went outside the parenthesis bar there? Now it's divided by, there we go, divided by, what was that, 10. Okay, and so if you were asked for a decimal answer, you type it in, okay, to Desmos, just like you had it on your paper over there, okay, and it will give you a decimal answer. And then Math Excel or whatever program you're using will ask you to round to a certain decimal place. A lot of times it's hundredths. If that were the case, you know, it'd be 0.13. Sometimes it's thousandths. If that were the case, it'd be 0.131. Okay, so this would be considered an approximation because you would be rounding. Okay, however, if it ever asks you for an exact answer is when you leave it in the radical form. Okay, all right, let's do another one. This is fun. All right, let's get my pen again. All right, so let's say this guy is 4n squared minus 19n, it doesn't matter the variable, equals -18. Okay, and some kids will want to go immediately and say a is equal to 4, b is equal to -19, and c is equal to -18. But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that it's not set equal to 0. Okay, so we have to set it equal to 0 first. So I have to add the 18 to both sides. So 4n squared minus 19n plus 18 is equal to 0. Now I can use it. Okay, it's going to give me a completely different answer with a positive 18 as my c and vice a negative 18. Okay, so let's identify our a, our b, and our c. So a is equal to 4, b is equal to -19, and c is equal to 18. Okay, these are big numbers. Big numbers. Alrighty. So, and this wouldn't be factorable. Okay, so you wouldn't be able to find, because not all of them are factorable, right? You have to, when you see if something is factorable or not, you look at a times c, and you find the factors of that product, and they have to have a sum of the b. Okay, and in this case, you wouldn't be able to find any factors of 4 times 18 that have a sum of -19. So you would have to use the quadratic formula or a different method that I'm going to show you next week. But quadratic formula will work for everything. All right, so let's write our quadratic formula. X, or n in this case, is going to be equal to negative parentheses b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. I'm going to get my handy dandy calculator out for this one because this has some big old numbers, I tell you what. All right. All right, so now next step is I'm only going to be substituting in. I'm not going to do any simplification or any sort of math. I'm just substituting in the values for A, B, and C. Okay, so n is equal to negative, parentheses, negative 19. Because you can see there, if you don't put the parentheses, you might forget to put the next, both of the negatives, which we know means positive 19. Okay, you might get the wrong answer if you forget to put the parentheses. Okay, plus or minus the square root of negative 19 squared. And remember that this is not the same thing as this, right? Okay. I'm afraid to use the eraser because when I do, it starts skipping around. But come on, eraser. See? This is what happens. It's lovely. 11 minutes in. Far enough in that I don't want to start again. So, I'm going to cry. Golly gee. I'm not too happy about this. All right, I'm going to give it a second. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just going to close it. Hold on.